The diplomatic vessel Times, Serene Horizon Times, drifted through the darkness of neutral space, its pale blue lights blinking softly against the void. Inside, Ambassador Velthari reviewed trade documents in the main conference room, surrounded by delegates from 7 different species. They were returning from successful negotiations, and the mood was light. In 3 days, they would reach the collective's central hub, and this mission would be complete. Yuna sat at her communication station on the bridge, monitoring the standard channels. She had been working as a cultural liaison for 8 months now, one of only 12 humans employed by the Galactic Collective. The job was mostly boring, translating phrases and explaining Earth customs to curious aliens. But it paid well, and she got to see the galaxy. The proximity alarm changed everything. It started as a soft beep, then grew into a harsh wail. Yuna's screen lit up with red markers. 27 ships had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel, surrounding them in a perfect sphere. Her hands moved across the console, pulling up identification data. Her blood went cold. Kravesh Empire warships. Captain Belmore rushed to the bridge, his 4 arms gesturing frantically. The Kravesh had a reputation across the galaxy. They were conquerors, slavers, and they never left survivors who couldn't be sold. The Times Serene Horizon Times had no weapons, no military escort. It was a civilian vessel carrying diplomats and staff. The lead Kravesh ship, a massive dreadnought called Times Blood Talon Asterisk, opened a communication channel. Commander Thexlon's face filled the main screen. He was massive, with dark armor covering his scaled body. His eyes were yellow and cold. Diplomatic vessel, you will power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in immediate destruction. Captain Belmore tried to negotiate. He explained they were on a peaceful mission, that attacking them would violate every galactic treaty. Thexlon laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Treaties meant nothing out here, so far from collective protection. The Kravesh opened fire. The first shots were warnings, energy blasts that scorched across the Times, Serene Horizons Times hull. The second volley hit the engines. The ship shuddered violently, and the lights flickered. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in red. They were dead, in space, helpless. Yuna watched her console as the Kravesh ships moved closer. They had minutes, maybe less. Captain Belmore was already ordering everyone to the safe rooms, following protocol for civilian vessels under attack. But protocol wouldn't save them. Nothing would. We have to call for help, Yuna said. Belmore's eyes widened. The nearest collective patrol is 4 days away. No one can reach us in time. Yuna's fingers were already moving across her station. She pulled up the emergency broadcast system and began typing coordinates. Not collective patrols. Earth ships. The bridge went silent. Ambassador Velthari had entered and heard her words. The tall, elegant alien approached Yuna's station slowly. Human military vessels? They are 16 light-years from here. And your people. Yuna understood. Humans were new to the galactic community, and their homeworld was classified as a Class 12 death world. The gravity was crushing by normal standards, the weather violent, and the predators deadly. Humans had evolved as hunters, and it showed. Most species found them intimidating, their reactions too quick, their endurance frightening. The collective military kept human ships at a distance, unsure what to do with warriors from a planet that tried to kill everything on it. They're our only chance, Yuna said quietly. The Kravesh will board us in minutes. They'll interrogate you, and when you can't give them what they want, they'll start killing people. I've read the reports. You know what they do. Another impact rocked the ship. Through the viewport, Kravesh boarding craft were launching. Small and fast. Heading straight for them, Ambassador Velthari looked at Captain Belmore, then back at Yuna. The ambassador's face was unreadable, but her hands trembled slightly. Send the message. Yuna broadcasted on all frequencies, including the restricted human military channels. Her message was simple. Diplomatic vessel under attack by Kravesh Empire. Civilian crew in immediate danger. Coordinates attached. Requesting emergency assistance. She included her Earth identification code, marking herself as a human citizen aboard. The response came faster than anyone expected. 16 light-years away, the human battlecruiser Times, Indomitable Times, picked up the signal. The communications officer brought it straight to Captain Taeyang, who was reviewing supply reports in his ready room. Taeyang read the message 3 times. A diplomatic vessel under attack. Civilians in danger. And one of their own was on board. He didn't hesitate. His finger hit the ship-wide intercom. All hands, battle stations, engineering, I need FTL drive at maximum. His executive officer, Lieutenant Hagen, entered the ready room. Sir, the vessel is 16 light-years away. Even at maximum speed. We're looking at 45 minutes minimum. Then we leave in 3 minutes and cut that to 40. Taeyang said, already pulling on his uniform jacket. Alert the escort frigates. We're going in heavy. Hagen knew better than to argue. She'd served with Taeyang for 4 years and knew his reputation. He'd grown up in Busan, joined the military at 18, and worked his way up through pure skill and an absolute refusal to leave anyone behind. Other captains called him reckless. His crew called him loyal. What about the Kravesh fleet? Hagen asked. Intelligence says they usually travel in groups of 20 or more. Taeyang smiled, but there was no warmth in it. On the Times, Serene Horizon **, Yuna watched her console. The human ships had received the message and were responding. She saw the projected arrival time. 42 minutes. Her heart sank. They didn't have 42 minutes. The first Kravesh boarding craft attached to the hull with a metallic clang. Then another. And another. The sound of cutting tools echoed through the walls. Ambassador Velthari ordered everyone away from the main airlocks. The crew and delegates huddled in the conference room, the door sealed. They could hear boots in the corridors outside, heavy and deliberate. Weapons, fire, screaming. Yuna checked her console one last time before the power died. The human ships were coming. She just hoped some of them would still be alive when the Times, Indomitable Times, arrived. The conference room door exploded inward. Kravesh soldiers poured into the conference room, their weapons raised and ready. They were massive creatures, each one standing nearly 7 feet tall, with thick armor plating covering their natural scales. The delegates screamed and backed against the far wall. Captain Belmore tried to step forward, to negotiate. But a Kravesh warrior struck him across the face with the butt of a rifle. The captain fell hard. Commander Thexlon entered last, moving with the casual confidence of someone who knew he had already won. His yellow eyes scanned the room, counting the prisoners. 23 aliens of various species, all cowering and harmless. Perfect. On your knees, he ordered. His voice was amplified through his helmet, making it boom across the room. The delegates obeyed, some crying, others shaking with fear. Ambassador Velthari remained standing. We are protected by Galactic Treaty, she said, her voice steady despite her terror. We are non-combatants. This is a war crime. Thexlon walked up to her slowly. He was twice her size. Treaties are words. Words mean nothing in empty space. He grabbed her by the throat and lifted her off the ground. You will give me the collective's trade route data and military positions. Or I will execute everyone in this room. Starting with the weakest. Velthari couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. Thexlon dropped her, and she collapsed to the floor, gasping. 2 Kravesh soldiers dragged her to a chair and began setting up interrogation equipment. Yuna knelt with the others, her mind racing. 42 minutes. The humans would arrive in 42 minutes, but that was too long. Thexlon would kill them all before then. She needed to buy time. Take me first, Yuna said loudly. Every head turned to look at her. I'm human. You've probably never seen one before. I'm more interesting than her. Thexlon paused. He walked over to Yuna and grabbed her by the hair, pulling her to her feet. He studied her face with curiosity. A human. From the death world. I have heard stories. They say your planet is so dangerous that your species evolved to be nearly indestructible. Yuna forced herself to smile despite the pain. Not indestructible. Just hard to kill. Thexlon laughed. We will see. He dragged her to the center of the room and threw her down. He drew a wicked-looking blade from his belt. Let us test these stories. How much can a human endure before they break? He raised the blade. Every delegate looked away, unable to watch. The proximity alarms screamed. Every Kravesh soldier's helmet lit up with warnings. Thexlon froze, his blade still raised. His communication officer's voice crackled through on his private channel, panicked and confused. Commander, 3 ships just appeared inside our formation. They dropped out of FTL at point-blank range. It's suicide positioning. Thexlon shoved Yuna aside and activated his wrist display. The tactical view showed his fleet of 27 ships arranged in a defensive sphere around the Time's serene horizon asterisk. And there, impossibly, were 3 new contacts. They had appeared between his ships, so close that any wrong move could cause a collision. Identification? He demanded. They're human warships, sir. 1 battlecruiser, 2 frigates. Thexlon felt something unfamiliar, a cold sensation in his chest. Fear. Dropping out of FTL that close, with that precision, should be impossible. The mathematical calculations alone would take hours. The slightest error would tear a ship apart. But the humans had done it perfectly. A voice came over the open channel, calm and clear. This is Captain Taeyang of the United Earthship Times. Indomitable asterisk. You are attacking a vessel with a human citizen aboard. You have 10 seconds to release all hostages and surrender, or we will consider this an act of war against Earth. Thexlon's fear turned to anger. 3 ships against his fleet? The humans were insane. Open fire. Destroy them. The Kravesh fleet unleashed everything. Energy weapons, missiles, railgun rounds, all converging on the 3 human ships. The volume of fire was enough to vaporize a small moon. The human point defense systems activated. Thousands of small cannons tracked and destroyed incoming missiles with perfect accuracy. Energy weapons hit the human shields and were absorbed or deflected. A few shots made it through, impacting the hull armor. They left scorch marks but no serious damage. The Kravesh had never fought an enemy built to withstand the crushing gravity and violent storms of a death world. Human ships were overbuilt by galactic standards. Their armor absurdly thick, their systems redundant and hardened. What would cripple a normal vessel barely scratched them. The human counterattack was devastating. The Times. Indomitable Times fired its main railguns. Solid metal slugs accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. They hit with the force of small nuclear weapons. The first shot punched straight through a Kravesh cruiser's shields and hull, exiting the other side. The ship broke apart, atmosphere venting, crew dying instantly. The human frigates launched missile swarms. These weren't simple explosives. Each missile had its own guidance. AI. Able to adapt and evade in real time. They weaved through Kravesh defensive fire, finding weak points, exploiting gaps. Explosions bloomed across the fleet. In 90 seconds, 4 Kravesh ships were destroyed or disabled. The others broke formation, trying to create distance. But the human ships were faster. On the Time's serene horizon asterisk, the delegates watched through the viewport in stunned silence. The Kravesh soldiers had stopped paying attention to them, all focus on the battle outside. Yuna allowed herself a small smile. The cavalry had arrived. Captain Taeyang sat in his command chair, watching the tactical display with cold efficiency. His crew worked around him, calling out targets, coordinating fire. They had trained for this. Humans didn't just build strong ships. They trained their crews to operate beyond normal limits. Lieutenant Hagen, status on the Time's serene horizon asterisk? He asked. Kravesh boarding parties are still on board. Hostages are alive but in immediate danger. Taeyang nodded. Lieutenant Minho, prep your team. Boarding action. I want those hostages out, and the Krevesh eliminated. Minho grinned from the Marine Bay. Understood, sir. We'll be fast. And Minho? No unnecessary risks. But make it memorable. The galaxy needs to remember what happens when you threaten civilians. The boarding craft launched from the Time's indomitable Asterisk, small and heavily armored. They crossed the distance in seconds, attaching to the Time's Serene Horizon's Time's hull with magnetic clamps. The Marines inside checked their weapons one last time. Corporal Jiho set the breaching charge and stepped back. Ready? Private Nari nodded, her rifle up and ready. The rest of the team stacked up behind them. The charge detonated. The hull blew inward, and the Marines poured through. The Krevesh inside never had a chance. They were strong and well-armed, but they had never fought humans in close quarters. The Marines moved with a speed that seemed impossible, their reactions honed by a lifetime on a high-gravity world. They could carry heavier weapons, wear thicker armor, and fight longer, without rest. The first Krevesh soldier raised his weapon. Nari shot him twice in the chest before he could aim. Another turned to run. Jiho tackled him, his momentum carrying them both into a wall. His fist came down once, twice, and the Krevesh stopped moving. The fight moved through the corridors. The Marines cleared room after room. Efficient and brutal. When they reached the conference room, they found Thexlon holding his blade to Ambassador Velthari's throat, using her as a shield. Back away, or she dies, he snarled. Lieutenant Minho stepped forward, his rifle lowered. You would spare me? Thexlon asked, confused. We're not here to kill you, Minho said. We're here to save them. But if you hurt her, nothing in this galaxy will save you from us. Thexlon looked into Minho's eyes and saw something that terrified him. Not anger, not hatred, just absolute certainty. This human would kill him without hesitation, without regret, if he made the wrong choice. He lowered the blade. The Marines secured Thexlon and began evacuating the hostages. Corporal Jiho took 3 plasma rounds to his armor while covering their escape. He stayed on his feet, got everyone to safety, then finally let himself collapse. Private Nari fought for 7 continuous minutes without stopping, something that would exhaust any other species in half that time. She cleared the engine room single-handedly. Outside, the Times, indomitable Times, finished destroying 2 more Krevesh ships. The remaining fleet began to retreat. Captain Taeyang opened a channel to the Krevesh flagship. You came here to hurt civilians. You don't get to leave. The hunt had just begun. Commander Thexlon watched his tactical display in growing horror. The human ships were not letting his fleet retreat. The 2 frigates had moved to flanking positions, cutting off the easiest escape routes. The battlecruiser Times. Indomitable Times sat in the center, weapons hot and tracking every Krevesh vessel. All ships, scatter formation. Thexlon ordered. Jump to FTL. On my mark. Different vectors. They cannot follow all of us. His communication officer's voice was shaking. Commander. They are jamming our FTL drives. Some kind of field generator. We cannot jump. Thexlon slammed his fist on the console. The humans had planned this. They had not come just to rescue civilians. They had come to send a message. Captain Taeyang's voice came over the open channel again, calm and cold. You have one chance. Power down your weapons and surrender. We will take you into custody and turn you over to the Galactic Council. Or you can fight, and we will destroy every single ship in your fleet. Choose now. Thexlon's response was to open fire. Pride would not let him surrender to 3 human ships, even if his fleet was already down to 23 vessels. The Krevesh warships targeted the Time's indomitable Asterisk, concentrating their fire on the battlecruiser. The human ship weathered the assault. Its shields flared bright blue, absorbing the energy weapons. Missiles were shot down or decoyed away. A few heavy rounds penetrated, striking the armor. Alert lights flashed on Taeyang's bridge, but damage control teams were already responding. "Return fire," Taeyang ordered. "Target their engines. I want them alive to face justice." The Time's Indomitable's Time's weapons spoke again. But this time, the railgun rounds were precisely aimed. They struck the engine sections of 3 Kravish cruisers, crippling them without destroying them. The ships went dark, drifting, and helpless. The human frigates moved in a coordinated dance, their smaller size making them harder to hit. They focused on the Kravish destroyers, the fastest ships in the enemy fleet. Missile swarms launched, each one guided by advanced AI that adapted to defensive fire. The Kravish lost 2 destroyers in under a minute. On the Time's Serene Horizon asterisk, the rescued delegates watched the battle through the bridge viewport. They had been moved there by Lieutenant Minho's Marines, who were now securing the ship and treating the wounded. Yuna stood beside Ambassador Velthari, both of them silent as they watched the human vessels systematically dismantle the Kravish fleet. "I have never seen anything like this," Velthari whispered. "They move like predators. Like they were born for this." Yuna nodded slowly. "Earth made us good at 2 things: surviving and protecting our own. You called for help. We take that seriously." A young alien engineer named Plixtar approached them hesitantly. He was small, his species known for their intelligence but not their courage. "Are all humans like this? So violent?" "When we need to be," Yuna said. "But violence is not all we are. Watch." She pointed to where Medical Officer Deho was working. The human medic moved from patient to patient with gentle efficiency. He had already treated 8 wounded aliens, his hands steady and sure. He spoke softly to each one, calming their fear, explaining what he was doing. When a small child from one of the delegate families started crying, Deho stopped his work to comfort her first, even though others had more serious injuries. "We are taught to be fierce to our enemies and kind to those who need protection," Yuna explained. "Both come from the same place. We survive by protecting our family, our tribe. And when someone asks for help, they become part of that tribe." Outside, the hunt continued. The Kravish tried everything. They scattered, forcing the humans to choose targets. But the human tracking systems were too good, their sensors picking up every ship even through the debris field. They tried to form a defensive formation, overlapping their shields. The human frigates simply went around, attacking from above and below where the coverage was weakest. One Kravish captain attempted to jump to FTL, despite the jamming. His ship's drive overloaded, and the vessel tore itself apart. The other Kravish learned from that mistake. What made it worse for the Kravish was that the human crews never seemed to tire. Most species needed regular rest cycles, rotating shifts to keep their vessels running. Human crews operated on something called combat stimulants and pure adrenaline. They could function for days if necessary, their bodies adapting to stress in ways that seemed impossible. Captain Taeyang had not left his command chair in 3 hours. He showed no sign of fatigue. His orders came fast and precise, each one executed perfectly by his crew. Lieutenant Hagen coordinated with the frigates, creating a web of overlapping fire that gave the Kravish no safe position. By the 4th hour, the Kravish fleet was down to 9 ships. 7 were crippled, drifting hulks with no power. 2 had been completely destroyed when they tried to ram the human vessels in desperation. The remaining 9 gathered around Thexlon's flagship, the Time's Blood Talon asterisk, making a final stand. "This is madness," Thexlon's second officer said. "We should surrender. We have lost." "Never," Thexlon snarled. "I will not be taken prisoner by Deathworld savages. All ships, final assault. Target the battle cruiser. Ramming speed if necessary." The Kravish ships charged. It was a desperate, furious attack, the kind that might have worked against a normal opponent. But the humans were not normal. The Times, indomitable Times, did something that would be talked about in military academies for generations. Instead of retreating or holding position, Captain Taeyang ordered his ship to charge directly into the enemy formation. The battlecruiser's engines flared bright blue as it accelerated to ramming speed. On the bridge of the Times, Serene Horizon *, everyone gasped. Even Yuna felt her heart stop. What was he doing? He is insane. Ambassador Velthari breathed. No, Yuna said quietly. He is making sure they never threaten anyone again. The Times, indomitable Times, smashed into a Kravesh destroyer at full speed. The human ship's reinforced bow, built to withstand atmospheric entry on a high-gravity world, crushed through the lighter Kravesh vessel. Metal screamed. The destroyer broke apart, its hull crumpling like paper. The battlecruiser burst through the debris and emerged on the other side, damaged but operational. At point-blank range, the Times Indomitable's Times weapons were unstoppable. Railgun fire tore through 2 more Kravesh ships. Missile launches from internal bays struck 3 others. The human frigates swept in from the sides, finishing the wounded vessels. The Times Blood Talon Times stood alone. Thexlon stood on his bridge, surrounded by sparks and smoke. Half his crew was dead or wounded. His shields were gone. His weapons were down to 30% capacity, and the human battlecruiser was turning toward him, its weapons locked on. Surrender. Commander. Captain Taeyang's voice was tired now but still firm. It is over. You lost the moment you decided to hurt innocent people. We do not lose when we are protecting others. We never lose. Thexlon looked at his tactical display. 27 ships. He had started with 27 ships. Only his flagship remained combat-capable. The humans had 3 ships. 3 ships crewed by Deathworld survivors who refused to quit, refused to tire, refused to let predators hunt the weak. He understood now why the galaxy feared them. His hand moved to the surrender controls. But pride, that terrible pride, made him pause. He could fire one last shot. Take one of them with him. His finger moved to the weapons trigger. A railgun round punched through his flagship's command deck. Thexlon saw it coming. A streak of metal moving faster than his eyes could track. He had one moment to realize his mistake. Then nothing. The Times Blood Talon Times broke apart, its core going dark. Emergency pods launched, carrying survivors. The human frigates moved to collect them, taking prisoners despite everything. The battle was over. 4 hours and 17 minutes after it started. 0 human casualties. Complete Kravesh defeat. In the silence that followed, Yuna found she was crying. Not from fear. From relief. They had survived. And the humans had come when they called. The silence after battle was strange. Space was filled with debris, pieces of Kravesh ships drifting in the void. Emergency lights blinked on disabled vessels. Escape pods floated among the wreckage, their occupants waiting to be collected. The Times, indomitable Times, held position near the Times. Serene Horizon *, its hull, scarred but intact. Steam vented from damaged sections as repair crews worked. Captain Taeyang stood in front of a mirror in his ready room, straightening his uniform. His hands were steady, but his eyes showed the exhaustion he felt. 4 hours of combat. 4 hours of making life and death decisions. Now came the harder part. Facing the people they had saved. Lieutenant Hagen entered without knocking, carrying a damage report. Hull, breaches on decks, 7 and 9. Casualties are surprisingly light. 3 injured, none critical. The frigates report minimal damage. We were lucky. Not luck, Taeyang said quietly. Training. And the fact that our ships are built like fortresses because Earth is not a gentle place. He took the report, but did not read it. How are the civilians? Shaken but alive. Medical Officer Daeho. Reports all wounded are stable. The ambassador is requesting to speak with you. Taeyang nodded. Prepare a shuttle. I will go to them. He paused at the door. And Hagen? Tell the crew they did well. Very well. The shuttle crossed the short distance between ships. Taeyang brought Lieutenant Heijin and 4 Marines, all in dress uniforms rather than combat armor. It was important that they look like protectors, not conquerors. The airlock cycled, and they stepped onto the Times, Serene Horizon *. The bridge was crowded. All the delegates had gathered there, wanting to see their rescuers face to face. They went silent when the humans entered. Taeyang could see fear in many of their eyes. He understood. They had just watched human ships destroy an entire fleet with terrifying efficiency. He removed his cap and bowed formally in the style of his culture. Ambassador Velthari, I am Captain Taeyang of the Times Indomitable *. I apologize for the violence you witnessed. I wish we could have resolved this peacefully, but the Kravesh made that impossible. The ambassador stared at him. You apologize? You saved our lives. Yes, but we also showed you how dangerous humans can be, Taeyang said. I know our reputation. Many species fear us. I do not want to add to that fear, if I can help it. Yuna stepped forward from the crowd. She had been standing with the other civilians, but now she approached Taeyang and saluted. Sir, Communications Officer Yuna, reporting. Thank you for responding to my distress call. Taeyang smiled, and it transformed his face from stern to kind. We would have come regardless of who sent the call. But yes, when we saw one of our own was in danger, we moved faster. He looked around at all the assembled aliens. Is everyone accounted for? Any additional casualties? Captain Belmore stepped forward, one side of his face swollen from where the Kravesh had struck him. We lost 3 crew members before you arrived. The Kravesh executed them during their initial boarding, but because of your speed, the rest of us survived. Taeyang's expression hardened. I am sorry we were not faster. Those deaths are a failure on our part. No, Belmore said firmly. Those deaths are on the Kravesh. You came when many others would not have. You risked your ships and your lives for people you barely know. Ambassador Velthari moved closer to Taeyang. She was tall for her species, but still shorter than the human captain. I must ask the question that everyone here is thinking. Why did you come? Your alliance with the collective is new. You had no obligation. Why risk so much? The bridge was silent, everyone waiting for the answer. Yuna spoke before Taeyang could. Because someone asked for help. That is all we needed. Taeyang nodded. On Earth, we have many cultures, many languages, but we share certain values. One of them is simple. No one fights alone. When someone is in trouble, when someone calls for help, you go. You do not calculate the cost or the risk. You just go. But we are strangers to you, Velthari said. Why does this matter so much? Lieutenant Heijin answered this time, her voice gentle. Because Earth taught us that survival means protecting each other. Our world is harsh. The gravity is high. The weather is violent. The predators are deadly. Humans survived by forming tribes, by protecting our families, by never abandoning our wounded. That instinct is deep in us now. When we heard your distress call, you became part of our tribe, and we protect our tribe. Plixtar, the young engineer, raised his hand hesitantly. But how can you be so violent and so gentle at the same time? Medical Officer Deho saved my life. He was kind and patient, yet outside, your ships destroyed an entire fleet without mercy. How can both be true? Medical Officer Deho stepped forward from where he had been working in the corner. Because both are about protection. I heal the wounded, because that is how I protect them. Our ships destroy enemies, because that is how we protect the innocent. Violence and compassion are not opposites for humans. They are 2 sides of the same coin. An elderly delegate, his skin a deep purple and his eyes wise, spoke up. I have studied Earth history. Your species has fought terrible wars. You have hurt each other in ways that shock the galaxy. How do you reconcile that with what you say now? Taeyang did not look away from the challenging question. You are right. We have hurt each other. We still do sometimes. Earth is not perfect, and humans are not perfect. We struggle with our own nature. But we learn. We try to be better. And we have one rule that we try never to break. We do not prey on the weak. The strong protect the weak. That is what separates us from monsters like the Kravesh. The bridge was quiet for a long moment. Then, Ambassador Velthari did something unexpected. She bowed to Captain Taeyang, a deep formal bow that her species reserved for the highest respect. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for showing us that the stories about humans being monsters are not the whole truth. Taeyang helped her stand upright. The stories about us being dangerous are true. We are dangerous. But we choose who we point that danger at. Today, we pointed it at those who hurt you. Tomorrow, we will point it at anyone else who thinks they can prey on the innocent. Unknown to anyone on the bridge, the Times' Serene Horizons Times automated recording systems had captured everything. Every moment of the battle. Every act of violence and mercy. The systems had broadcast it all on standard collective frequencies, as required by protocol. Across the galaxy, on hundreds of worlds and thousands of ships, beings watched the footage. They watched 3 human ships appear in impossible positions. They watched the Kravesh fleet try and fail to stop them. They watched human marines fight with terrifying skill to save civilians. They watched Captain Taeyang ram his ship through an enemy vessel and keep fighting. And they watched him bow and apologize afterward, showing respect and gentleness to those he saved. The footage spread like wildfire. Within hours, every species in known space had seen it. Military strategists studied it frame by frame. Politicians debated its implications. And everywhere, people talked about what it meant. The humans were no longer an unknown factor. They were real. They were dangerous. And they came when you called for help. On the bridge of the Times, Serene Horizon *, Captain Taeyang prepared to return to his ship. We will escort you to the nearest collective station. Our frigates will collect the Kravesh survivors and bring them to face justice. You are safe now. As he turned to leave, Ambassador Velthari made a decision that would change the galaxy. Captain, I need to transmit a message to the Galactic Council. I need to tell them what really happened here. Not just the battle, but everything. What you said, what you showed us. They need to know the truth about humans. Taeyang met her eyes. Tell them whatever you think is right. We have nothing to hide. We are what we are. We only hope the galaxy can accept that. The shuttle returned to the Times' indomitable asterisk. The human ships formed up around the diplomatic vessel and began the journey to safety. Behind them, the wreckage of the Kravesh fleet drifted cold and silent in space, a warning to anyone who thought about preying on the weak. The Deathworlders were watching, and they would come when called. The Galactic Council chamber was chaos. Representatives from 47 species filled the vast circular room, all of them talking at once. Holographic displays showed the battle footage from every angle. The footage played on repeat. Impossible to ignore. 3 human ships destroying 27 Kravesh vessels. The precision, the speed, the absolute ruthlessness of it. Council Director Thainreese called for order, his voice amplified across the chamber. It took several minutes for the noise to die down. When it finally did, the tension was thick enough to cut. We have all seen the footage, Thainreese said. We must now decide how to respond to this incident. The floor is open. Representative Kolvax of the Military Committee stood first. He was from a warrior species, and his people understood combat. What we witnessed was not an incident. It was a demonstration of military superiority. 3 human vessels defeated an entire Kravesh fleet with 0 casualties. The tactical implications are staggering. I move that we restrict human military expansion immediately. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Many species had been nervous about human entry into galactic politics. This footage confirmed their worst fears. But then Ambassador Velthari stood. She had been given special permission to address the council directly, and the chamber fell silent to hear her. With respect, Representative Kovacs, you are focusing on the wrong details. Yes, the humans were effective. Devastatingly so. But you did not see what I saw. You did not hear what they said. Loof. She activated her personal display, showing a different clip. Captain Taeyang, bowing and apologizing. Medical Officer Deho gently treating wounded aliens. Lieutenant Heijin explaining human values with patience and kindness. These are not conquerors. They are protectors. They came because we called for help. Nothing more. Representative Vexthar, known for his cautious nature, spoke up. But Ambassador, their capacity for violence is undeniable. How can we trust a species this dangerous? Because they choose not to use that violence except in defense of others, Velthari replied firmly. The Kravesh have raided 17 civilian vessels in the past year. Where was the collective military? We are stretched thin, our patrols too far apart. But the humans responded to our distress call in less than an hour. They risked their lives for strangers. That speaks to their character more than their weapons do. The debate continued for hours. Some representatives called for human military restrictions. Others proposed formal alliances. A few demanded that Earth be quarantined entirely. The council was deeply divided. Then news arrived that changed everything. The Kravesh Empire had sent an official message to the council. They demanded reparations for their destroyed fleet. They threatened war against Earth if their demands were not met. They claimed the humans had attacked without provocation. The chamber erupted in outrage, but not at the humans. Every representative had seen the footage. Everyone knew the Kravesh had attacked first, had taken hostages, had executed civilians. The demand was absurd. Captain Taeyang was given permission to respond directly. His image appeared on the main holographic display, broadcast from the Times' indomitable asterisk. He looked tired, but calm. The Kravesh Empire claims we attacked without cause. The footage shows the truth. They attacked a civilian vessel. They took hostages. They executed innocents. We responded to protect those who could not protect themselves. If the Kravesh want war over this, we will give them war. But I promise you, Earth does not lose when we are fighting to protect others. He paused, letting his words sink in. However, we do not want war. We want peace. We want a galaxy where civilian vessels can travel safely, where distress calls are answered, where the strong protect the weak instead of preying on them. If the Galactic Council wants that same thing, we will work with you. If not, Earth will continue to act on its own. The Kravesh, watching the proceedings, suddenly remembered urgent business elsewhere in their empire. Their demands were quietly withdrawn. No one was surprised. In the days following, something remarkable began to happen across the galaxy. Species that had been nervous about humans started reaching out. Small colonies on the frontier requested human patrols. Civilian shipping companies asked for human escorts. The weak and vulnerable, those who had been prey for pirates and raiders, suddenly had hope. Pirates and raiders started avoiding any ship with even a single human aboard. The risk was too high. The footage had shown what happened to those who threatened human allies. Trade routes became safer almost overnight. Distress calls dropped by 40% in the first month. The change was dramatic and undeniable. Yuna was offered a position as Earth's first full ambassador to the Galactic Council. She accepted, understanding that her role was crucial. She would show the galaxy the human side that the battle footage did not capture. The compassion, the humor, the desire for peace. She would be the bridge between two worlds. On Earth, Captain Taeyang was promoted to Admiral. He was given command of a new deep space defense fleet, with orders to patrol the frontier and respond to distress calls. Earth was building more ships, training more crews, not for conquest, but for protection. The Times, Indomitable Times, became famous. People called it the Guardian Ship. Stories spread about its crew, about their courage and their mercy. Songs were written. Children played games pretending to be human Marines rescuing aliens from danger. 6 months after the incident, the collective formally requested a military alliance with Earth. The terms were clear. Human ships would patrol the frontier. Human Marines would respond to threats. In exchange, Earth would gain full membership in the Galactic Council, with voting rights and trade access. Admiral Taeyang sat in his ready room aboard the Times' Indomitable Asterisk, reading the alliance documents. Lieutenant Heijin stood nearby, waiting for his thoughts. Taeyang considered the question carefully. We can try. That is all anyone can do. We cannot be everywhere. We cannot stop every threat. But we can respond when someone calls. We can show that predators will face consequences. And maybe, slowly, others will follow our example. Some species will never trust us, Heijin said. They will always fear what we can do. Perhaps, Taeyang agreed. But trust is earned through actions, not words. Every time we protect instead of conquer, every time we show mercy instead of cruelty, we earn a little more trust. It will take time, maybe generations, but it is worth doing. The Times, Indomitable Times, finished its repairs and returned to patrol. The ship moved along the frontier, its sensors scanning for any sign of trouble. The crew worked their shifts, trained their skills, and waited. 3 weeks into the new patrol route, a distress call crackled across the emergency channels. A small mining colony on the edge of collective space was under attack. Raiders had landed and were taking hostages. The colony's defenses were minimal. They needed help, desperately. The communication officer brought the message to Admiral Taeyang immediately. He read it once, then activated the ship-wide intercom. All hands. Emergency action stations. We have a distress call. 18 minutes to the colony at maximum speed. Marines, prep for surface deployment. Lieutenant Heijin appeared on his ready room screen. Orders, sir? Taeyang's expression was calm, but determined. We go fast. We go hard. And we make sure every single colonist comes home safe. The Times. Indomitable Times, and its escort ships turned toward the colony, engines blazing. Behind them, 2 more human frigates received the alert and changed course to assist. Within minutes, 5 human warships were racing toward the distressed colony. The raiders had no idea what was coming. They thought they were hitting an easy target. A weak colony far from help. They did not know that their attack had triggered an alert that reached human ships. They did not know that the Deathworlders had heard their call. In the colony's command center, the administrator watched her sensors in desperation. The raiders were everywhere, breaking into homes, rounding up civilians. Security forces were overwhelmed. She had sent the distress call, but had little hope anyone would arrive in time. Then her sensors lit up. 5 contacts, dropping out of FTL right in orbit. The signatures were unmistakable. Human warships. She started crying, relief flooding through her. Help had arrived. The humans had come. Atmospheric entry began. Marine drop pods fell like meteors, streaking through the sky toward the colony. The raiders looked up in confusion, then in fear, as they realized what those streaks meant. Admiral Taeyang watched from orbit as his Marines deployed. He opened a channel to the raiders. This is the United Earth Ship Times Indomitable Asterisk. You are attacking civilians under Galactic Council protection. Surrender immediately, or we will use force. You have 60 seconds to comply. The raiders tried to run. They tried to use hostages as shields. They tried to fight back. None of it worked. Human Marines hit the ground and spread through the colony with the efficiency born from months of training and the instinct for protection that Earth had given them. The fight was over in 20 minutes. Every raider was captured or eliminated. Every civilian was safe. Not a single colonist died after the humans arrived. As the colony administrator thanked the Marine commander, as families reunited with tears and relief, Admiral Taeyong sat in his command chair and felt a quiet satisfaction. This was why they patrolled. This was why they came when called. Because somewhere out there, someone always needed help. And the Deathworlders would always answer. The galaxy was learning a new lesson. Prey no more on the weak. Threaten no more the innocent. Because the humans were listening. They would hear your distress call. And they would come. Always.